This is KPIX 5 Breaking News.
Good afternoon. I'm Alan Martin in the KPIX 5 studios. We have this breaking news right now coming out of Oakland and the courtroom there. The verdict has just come down for the two defendants in the ghost ship warehouse trial. We're being told that defendant Max Harris, has been acquitted on all charges, 36 charges of involuntary manslaughter. As far as Derick Almena, the master tenant, we're told that it is a hung jury. We are waiting for the attorneys to come out of the courtroom. We will also be getting a reaction from the victims' families on that as well. But joining me right now, former federal prosecutor Tony Brass. And Tony, we were talking earlier, and we were thinking one of the two, if not both, would be found guilty. Are you surprised by this verdict?
I am. I'm very surprised by the verdict. I think that the view of this case was that even though the defense wanted to cast blame onto Oakland City agencies for not having done their job, that there would be enough blame to go around for both Mr. Almena and Harris to be convicted.
And does that mean that that won't come up later? I mean, obviously there are some big questions here as far as the hung jury. Prosecutors are going to have to make some decisions here first, right?
They will, but it's almost impossible to see that we will ever look at Ghost Ship as an accident. This tragedy is of such magnitude that someone's going to have to be to blame for this. And if it's not Mr. Harris and Almena, then I think the city of Oakland is going to have issues with what happened. What was it they did or didn't do that constituted a real defense in this case? I mean, let's be honest, the public is going to be shocked, and this is going to surprise so many people, not least of all is the victims' families.
Well, I was just thinking about all those victims' families who have been there throughout this whole thing. First, they reached a plea deal, and the victims' family said, wait a minute, this doesn't seem right. That was thrown out. Now they've been there through the days of the trial, the jurors who were replaced. They've been through an awful lot, especially considering the loss of their loved ones.
There is little question that the focus to get justice for these victims' families was Mr. Almena and Harris and this trial. And so the fact that it's panned out with an acquittal means, almost by definition, that there's blame that's going to be cast somewhere else.
We are looking at the hallway here just outside of the courtroom, and Max Harris's attorney, Curtis Briggs, has come out. He was the one who told us that his client was acquitted, found not guilty on all 36 counts, 36 charges. He has said he is not going to be speaking to the media in public at all. And why is that?
Well, right now, his client has been acquitted, but the co-defendant hangs in the balance. What sort of offer the district attorney will make, what sort of plea deal a judge may approve later on, and what is the fate of Mr. Almena at this point really hangs in a very delicate balance. So making any comment now to the press is unnecessary and unproductive.
Just a quick little side note, because I have a question. We're looking at, obviously we're planning on having people come to the podium and speak, but we know what the verdicts are. We know what the jury, the decision they reached, yet they're not out. No one's come out of the courtroom except the one attorney. What's going on inside there?
Well, it's possible that that Mr. Serra is speaking with the jury. He's going to want to know a lot of things. What their approach was with Mr. Harris's case, and also what happened with that jury misconduct. What was it that led to 3 jurors being dismissed and beginning deliberations all over again?
And we still don't know what that misconduct was. There's no details. They're not speaking. The court isn't talking about that.
We know nothing. I would be speculating, but it is likely that what that was some sort of information got to those 3 jurors, which would have polluted the deliberation process. Whether someone asked them a question or gave them a piece of information that they weren't allowed to consider as jurors.
Or talking amongst themselves, which they're instructed not to do outside of the deliberation room.
Entirely possible. But no matter what happened, it was seen that it was dangerous enough to the process that they had to be dismissed.
I was mentioning earlier the victims' family members having gone through so much, and part of it was that last summer prosecutors did reach a plea deal with both defendants. It was sort of a package deal, and those family members really strongly objected to that. They thought it was too lenient, and then another judge threw it out, tossed it out, and said, you're right, we're going to trial. How unusual is that in your experiences?
Highly unusual.
Really?
It's not infrequent that a victim will feel that a plea bargain isn't harsh enough, but for a judge to agree and actually take action like that and throw out a plea bargain in a high-profile case like this is very unusual.
Because as we look at the pictures here of some of the victims who died in that fire so tragically in early December of 2016, when we see what happened there, the public sees it, the victims' family members obviously have to relive this. It can't be dismissed as just an accident, is what you were telling me earlier, that something happened here and someone must be responsible somewhere down the road.
This was a conspicuous danger. Anyone who walked into this place could see how dangerous it was. And so it is a mystery how it got this far, where there was an actual party hosting all of these people who died in this horrific inferno in this building. Like, how did that happen without somebody saying, we got to shut this building down? This cannot exist. We must take steps.
The prosecutors, and I'm going to ask you to, Monday morning quarterback here, but something went wrong here. They didn't prove their case, and it has to be asked down the road. I'm sure they're going to be second guessing themselves too. Is what happened? What did we not do right?
I have to think that when the defense in this case shifted blame away from their clients onto city agencies, there was enough there that the jury concluded that somebody else in a position of authority should have done something. Now, it's hard to think that the blame shift was so effective that it took blame completely off of Almena and Harris, at least as an outsider.
Okay, Tony, I'm going to interrupt you there because let's get to Da Lin. He has now made his way out of the courtroom. He's in front of the camera in the hallway. Da, I want to first of all know, what was the reaction in that courtroom?
Oh my gosh, a lot of crying, a lot of sobbing, especially from the victims' families. When the jury, when the court workers announced not guilty, you can hear the gasp coming from the family. You can hear, I saw a lot of families crying, and you can see the pain in their face. And also, when Almena's information was released, so for Almena, it was a hung jury. They could not come to an agreement for Derick Almena. He is the master tenant. The judge declared it hopelessly deadlocked. So here's the very important information. Out of the 12 jurors, 10 found Almena guilty. 2 found Derick Almena not guilty. Of course, as we all know, you need all 12 to have the same decision, to have some kind of either guilty or not guilty. In this case, it was a hung jury. Again, 10 found Almena guilty, 2 not guilty. So here's what's next. On October 4th, the prosecution will come back. They can either retry the case, they can also negotiate some sort of plea deal with the defense attorney to have some kind of settlement. Now, keep in mind, before this trial, there was some kind of deal that both sides had agreed to, but the family members, the victims' family members, did not want to take that deal. They thought it was too easy on Max Harris and Derick Almena. They rejected that deal, and that prompted the judge, a judge, to throw out that deal, and that led to this criminal trial. And now, of course, Max Harris not guilty on all 36 counts and hung jury on Derick Almena. As for Max Harris, that was not a big surprise because the prosecution did not focus their case on Max Harris. Their main focus was on Derick Almena. So it wasn't a big surprise. A lot of the family members I talked to quite a few family members. A lot of the family members obviously wanted Max Harris found guilty, but some of the family members thought he was a scapegoat. Some of the victims' family members thought they were okay with letting him go and not guilty. And obviously he was released immediately after that announcement was made. So I understand he is in the process of being freed right now. They have to go through some procedure, basically. As for Derick Almena, we understand that he may continue to be locked up and wait for that October 4th decision. We are standing here in the hallway waiting for the defense attorneys for Derick Almena to come to speak. We're also waiting to see if victims' family members, if they want to speak or not. But I can tell you, just a lot of sad faces, a lot of disappointment. You can see the pain. It's hard to watch. when family members lost family members and they truly feel that someone is responsible, yet they feel helpless in the sense that they cannot hold these people accountable in their minds, that they cannot hold the folks accountable.